These kinds of problems you can easily have a love-hate relationship with because when it comes to angles in geometry, there are often multiple approaches to finding the value. So I'll talk about what I think is the most efficient way to do it, but ultimately I'm sure there's other ways to approach it. Now, first off, we could see here that we have a triangle within this image, and we know one of these angles is 24 degrees. However, we don't have, we'll call this angle 2, we don't have angle 3. However, something that we can observe, ultimately the goal is to find angle x. Well, let's see what relationship it has with angle 3 here. And to do so, let's go ahead to our math reference document, more specifically the backside of page 34, which is side 4, and it's all things geometry. So let's go ahead and zoom in to this particular portion where I talk about the difference between vertical angles and linear pairs. So whenever you have two lines intersecting, the angles that are directly across from each other, whether up or down, which is clearly vertical, or left and right, they don't call them horizontal angles, it's still vertical angles, but regardless, those angles are congruent to each other. So angles 1 and 3 are congruent, and then angles 4 and 2. However, if instead they're on the same line, so for example, on this line here, let's say angles 1 and 2, or angles 3 and 4, or on this line where you have angles 2 and 3 and 1 and 4, the relationship is called linear pairs, and the result is that they are supplementary to each other. So we can see that angle 3 will have the same measure as that angle x. So I'm just going to go ahead and rename it. X. And then what we know is that all three angles in a triangle always add up to 180, right? So if I can get the measure of angle 2, then I'll only have one unknown and can find x. Well, right here, we have the other relationship we talked about, which is a linear pair. So those are supplementary. So if I do 180 minus 139, I find that the measure of angle 2 is 41 degrees. And since all three of these angles should add up to 180 because they're in a triangle, and as we know, according to triangle sum theorem, all three angles of a triangle add up to 180, we can go ahead and do 180 minus the 24 and minus the 41 to get our answer of 115.